Hi everybody, I'm Manorama and this is Sanskrit Studies and Luminous Soul Corner, and I want to welcome you here today. Today I'm going to read a very small poem by Rumi and give some commentary to get you started with your day. So this is called Rumi's Little Book of Life, The Garden of the Soul, the Heart and the Spirit. And it is translated by Marya Mafi and Azima Melita Colin. This is a poem by our dear Rumi. The intellect is luminous and seeks justice, so why does the dark ego prevail over it? Because the ego is at home in the body while the intellect is only a visitor. The ego dog at his own door is like a lion. I'm going to read it again. The intellect is luminous and seeks justice, so why does the dark ego prevail over it? Because the ego is at home in the body, while the intellect is only a visitor. The ego dog at his own door is like a lion. So how do we begin to understand this from a yogic viewpoint? So first, Rumi is saying the intellect is luminous and seeks justice. Well, the intellect, he's likening the intellect here to deep wisdom and understanding, as if it's buddhi, and that wisdom and understanding is luminous. It is filled with light. And he says, and it seeks justice. It seeks a kind of balance in us. It's looking for that balance within us. So why does the dark ego prevail over it? Why does the ego? And he answers the question that he poses, because the ego is at home in the body. And so rarely do we actually study the ego in ourselves, and it's really a practice. Most people try to pretend that the ego actually, they hope that nobody notices that the ego rose. But the truth is, in every one of us, everybody knows when the ego has risen. So rather than hope that nobody notices or just go unconscious to it because you're like, I have no idea how to enter into the dialogue around it. Let's get curious. Let's start with a kind of curiosity about what the ego is and say, let's look to what Rumi says here. He says, because the ego is at home in the body. So the ego is at home. It's been cultivated. It's been nurtured most of our lives, right? And so now, we want to start to work with this. And when we learn how to work with the ego and to lessen the ego's grip on ourselves, it's not where we start putting ourselves down. That is a total misinterpretation of a teaching. We don't start putting ourselves down and go, the ego has risen. Instead, you want to actually just simply recognize when the ego has risen, soften around it, and try to look at what rose, that the ego rose along with it. Okay? So Rumi says, because the ego is at home in the body, while the intellect is only a visitor, our wisdom is a visitor. Now he's revealing his poetic nature, right? The ego is so at home with us, and that justice, that balance, and that luminosity is only a visitor. And what that means is that when we move into a deeper sense of wisdom, we recognize that the body and the mind reality we're visiting. We're using this as our spacesuit. We are visiting this realm. We're not staying here. We have not made a home in the body. When we move into our deeper sense of wisdom, and when we move into ego, we've made a home in the body and mind. He says, while the intellect is only a visitor, the ego dog at his own door acts like a lion. Right? Okay, so I'll read this poem one more time, see if you understand it in a deeper way. The intellect is luminous and seeks justice, so why does the dark ego prevail over it? Because the ego is at home in the body, while the intellect is only a visitor. The ego dog at his own door is like a lion. This week I want you to get curious about your wisdom and your ego and how they play out. And that when you move into deeper, let's take intellect here not to mean mental, but let's have it mean wisdom that dawns through all your faculties. Let's say that when you move into deeper wisdom and buddhi, that you are experiencing greater luminosity and you recognize that you are a visitor in the body and mind, but this is not your real home. And when you are rooted in body-mind reality, then you are bound to move through the ego, because the because the ego always takes the body and mind as its home. And so just start to notice when each one is playing out. Don't scold yourself. but start to pay attention and move more in the direction of wisdom. Thanks so much for joining me. That's my exercise for you this week. Be blessed, and remember, you are unique, you are beautiful, you are powerful, and you are free. You are energy moving through form, evolving yourselves here. You are a luminous soul. Be blessed, everybody. Lots of love.